So we're already recording, just so you know. Here's Fred.
Hi, nice to meet all of you.
Hello, Fred.
Okay, so we were just talking, Kurt was bringing up the subject. By the way, now that Fred's here, you want to open up in maybe a request for clarity and enlightenment?
Sure. Well, let's just open it with prayer. Thank you, Father, for an opportunity to get together. Keep everybody safe. It's a different message, but our eyes and ears are open to all possibilities because we've been wrong before. You who's never pray, amen.
So Kurt
I was asking a question based on what you said, and I don't disagree with what you said. A lot of it makes sense. Start putting stuff together. At the end of the 1,000-year reign is when the judgment is, and everybody's going to get an opportunity. What's the point of doing it now? Like, if I'm going to be outside and weeping and gnashing of teeth, but I'm still going to have an option to go in there and say, okay, I'm in.
Right. Well, as you know, when we keep, for instance, the feast of Yom Kippur, and technically it's Yom Kippurim. It doesn't say Yom Kippur in Hebrew. It says Yom Kippurim. It's the idea that there are judgments. Plural. There are many judgments. People experience judgments in their own lives. They certainly experience a judgment after they die. For instance, you look at Cain. He received a judgment for killing Abel. He was cast out, and Yahuwah had to put a mark on him to spare him. When he dies, there'll be a judgment for the way that he lived. Will he be in the kingdom or outside the kingdom? At the very end, there's a judgment for the whole world. When the kingdom is finally decided and everyone has heard about who Yahuwah is and about his Torah and his Messiah, and there's been an opportunity for everyone to make a decision based on knowledge, there'll be another judgment. So these judgments are all through our existence. And when Yeshua describes people waking up in the kingdom and finding they're outside the kingdom and they thought they were going to be in, and he describes them as weeping and gnashing of teeth, that's certainly not a picture of people burning in hell or something. That's people very disappointed and upset that they're not where they thought they would be. So the difference between being in the kingdom at the beginning and being outside of the kingdom appears to be very dramatic.
Okay. I will shut off my camera and microphone, and you can go. If you notice the recording shuts off, please turn it back on.
Okay.
Right.
Fred, if you happen to see the red dot go out, then we'll have to turn it back on.
Oh,
okay. So Fred had mentioned last week, and just so people know, we didn't have a real Skype call recording last week, but I didn't know where I was going to be. I ended up being here in California, and so we recorded just me and Fred out here. Just so people know, it was what they call Resurrection Day Sunday, and I'm not following that calendar, but I was using that as a timestamp of just an indicator. This is the year 2023, just so people know where we're at, and it's springtime, and there's a certain thoughts going on in people's minds, and so that's all I was addressing, was the occasion of thinking about resurrection. And Fred has been doing this study for a couple of years, and so this is a pertinent occasion to be discussing this. And one of the things he had mentioned was that there was an entire package of study regarding this idea of the millennial reign referenced in the book of Psalms, throughout various chapters. And so that's what he's going to talk about today. So we're going to give him more of a space of time to discuss this. But I wanted to bring up a couple things in the book of Psalms, being that we're studying Hebrew, and the millennium is like, well, is that studying of Hebrew, or that studying of a doctrinal concept? And this being pertinent for the occasion, not only because it's the springtime resurrection theme in nature, and Yeshua rising from the dead is the fractal model of the resurrection, but the fact that we were talking most recently on the previous series of This Is Only a Test, the letter Zodi is this flowers bursting out of Yeshua bursting out of the grave. Pei Zodi, the mouth opens, that which had been held closed tight shut, the grave, Sheol, releases with an explosion. Pesati literally is the word pronounced pizza, which means open mouth. And it also means detonate, explode, scatter, like throwing chopped up bits on a pizza. It's all the same picture. And then kuf is this picture, the circle with the line, like a balloon with a string, like a lollipop on a stick. It's a picture image, but it's also to raise up. And so the fact that in the narrative story of the gospel, that 40 days after, well, the kuf is literally talked about as being the back of the head, or that which follows after, like footprints in the sand follow your trek. And so for the Israelites going through this, you might say the dispersion of the 40 years in the wilderness, Abraham was told wherever the sole of your foot treads is going to be your inheritance. So they found in Saudi Arabia all these footprints carved. It's almost like every family, the father, the mother, so you have different sizes of footprints and little kids where they put their feet down and they scratched around it, which is to say, look, our feet have been here.
Yeah.
And apparently those foot carvings, scratchings, are still there today. Only they're ancient artifacts. Nobody knows what they're there for. But if you read the Bible, it's like, that's what they're there for. So this kuf literally means footprints following you. It's the wake of a ship. It's the letter that's the K or the C sound in the word Yaakov, which means he will inherit. And to say inherit what? Well, that's what this study is about. The inheritance, the way I was always taught to go into churches, in the by and by, in the sky, the millennial reign in heaven. You get rid of this stupid earth, this old thing. No. And as we read in Proverbs 8, that when Elohim built this planet, man, he put everything he had into this. It's a beautiful, wonderful, incredible thing. And for us to disparage or despise or disdain it, like, well, this world's going to disappear and they'll give us a better one. It's like, we don't get it. Everything that he put into building this place is spectacular.
Yes.
Only not through the lens of our ignorance. So to study the alphabet all of a sudden gives you a perspective like, wait a minute, what am I looking at? But part of that is to see that kuf, we have an inheritance of what? It tells us Reshin Tov. Well, what's Reshin Tov? Well, the word Aleph, Reshin Tov, literally means betrothed. Those that he is wedded to by promise, by vow. And just the letter Tov means, here's this X in Paleo, and it means a sign, a mark, an agreement. It's like, sign your name, write your X. I am all there. And now I'm held legally responsible and liable for the vow or the curse if we don't keep the vow, hence the number 7. And it's when you have a mind for what did he say? What did he mean? What are we doing about it? To throw in with all of our heart in understanding is a whole different thing than to say, well, we'll just wait and see. It's like there's this thing about having a hope, a kuf vav, tikva, tav, kuf vav. Hey, the hope is this projected future. The other word for inheritance is nachal, nun, het, lamed. And it's like, an inheritance? Oh yes, in Christ we have an inheritance of eternal. Okay, an inheritance of eternal life, but he gave us more than just that kind of a nebulous hope. So, and I brought up a couple things, which I'll just mention, then we'll turn it over to Fred here. If you look at Psalms 1, the very first word is Ashrei. Well, straight and right is Asher, hence the word Israel, Yod Shin Resh, this is Aleph Shin Resh, but it's also verified, confirmed, corroborated, valid, true, absolutely solid, without any question. But it's also translated, Ashri is blessed, praiseworthy, and happy. If you read, happy is the man, praiseworthy, or blessed, it's like, by what? To understand that these words are so true, so concrete, so absolutely, he, by saying Aleph, I will, I am, he's saying, I'm giving you this as my character, nature, intent, this by my integrity, the authority of my voice, never wavering. And it's like, what about the Torah that you did away with? And it's like, blatantly wrong because it contradicts the Alephness. And then when he says Tav and he signed up, then when we Tav, we are throwing it all in to this pool, this only hope, this absolutely no other reality. And so when you say, well, why do you keep the 7th-day Sabbath? Why not just say, well, we'll repent in the next life and get to go in and we can just goof around? And it's like, we were talking about this before you showed up, but the idea is, why is it the 7th day? Why 7 Moedim? Because the number 7, Shin Bet Ayin, means to swear a vow. And so for us to say, every time we keep the Sabbath day, we're swearing a vow of fidelity to him. Every time we keep the Moedim, it's like,
Yes.
Ani Ladodi Vadodi Li. I am yours and you are mine. We're there without any question. So when Kurt was saying, well, why don't you just get a second chance? And it's like, are you kidding? That's a breaking, a defying of the heart.
I mean, as soon as you brought that up, it struck me the difference between a bride and a bridesmaid. When you read Revelation 3, for instance, the chapters about the churches, and you see they're all scolded for something, and yet one church, the Church of Philadelphia, is not scolded for anything, and he expresses a depth of love for that church that is different than the others, where he says, I won't let anyone touch a hair of their head. I mean, I won't let anything happen to them. And why? Because they know my name and they keep my Torah. To strive to be a bridesmaid is to miss the mark. I mean, you might be in the kingdom, but the relationship of being a bride is so much different. If you're married, you realize what a different relationship you have with the one you married than with the girls who stood up to support her. It's a completely different thing. So, I tell everyone, strive to be the bride. If hearing his words and doing them and knowing his name is what establishes us as his bride, the one that he won't let anyone harm, then that's exactly where we want to be. We shouldn't settle to be a bridesmaid, to be a guest, to be a servant or a doorman. We should strive to be the best.
Let me say one other matter, because Fred's going to talk about Psalms 2 a little bit. Verse 7 and 8, he was going to bring up the point of. Verse 8 talks about this word, nachal tekah. So nun het lamed, well, that's inheritance. He says, ask of me and I will give you your inheritance. And it's like, inheritance, well, that means living again, or because if you live and die and you haven't received your inheritance, but it also means I've got something waiting for you. I've got something planned for your future. If we don't know we have a future, oh yes, I have a call. It's clouds on the other side of the galaxy, and it's like he's talking about the earth. So again, this is a different way of thinking, and I know it's disturbing because when I first heard Fred talk about it, it was disturbing.
It was disturbing to me when I started to read.
But here, I just want to bring something out because, the study of what's written. The beginning of verse 7, it says, in Stone's Tanakh here, it says, I'm obliged to proclaim. Well, what it says is Aleph Samik Pei Resh Hey, Aleph Lamed, Het Kuf, Yahweh, and then it says Amer Ali B'nai Atah. I'm obliged to proclaim that Yahweh said to me, you're my son. And then he says, this day I have begotten you. Well, that's verse 7. And people say, oh, that's talking about Jesus being the Son of God. No, it's not. Well, that's talking about David saying, oh, David is, then no, wait a minute. Aleph Samik Pei Resh, Aleph, if Aleph means I will, Sefer means to read, to count, to narrate. Sephirah, Samik Pei Resh Hey, is I will determine the meaning of these things that I've sefered. And then the word is Aleph Lamed, which is translated El, which is to say, some people call it God or powerful strength. Het Kuf is the word for law, which is the word for the command. See, Torah is the instructions, but this is Chok. Het Vav Kuf is a rung on a ladder. It's like there's something about this commands that he's given us, which are powerfully strong. Not only Ashri, which is in Psalms 1, which is praiseworthy, blessed, right, absolute, confirmed, without fail, but there's something about that, the commands of Yahweh, that we're able to sephir. Well, if we never read this, we're not sephiring. If we just sit in the church or sit in the school and do what we're told, which I was talking about before you showed it, we're not sephiring anything. We're just being obedient children. But there's something about that he gave us these instructions, these commands, these words and letters to sephir. And when he says to me, B'nai Ata, you are my son, Ani, that means I am, Hayom, this day, Yod Lamed Dalet Tav Yod Kaf. Well, hey laddie, or laddie, well, that's Scottish for a young lad, isn't it? Yod Lamed Dalet, we might look at the English letters I-L-D. Well, L-D is lad, Yod L-D is I-L-D. Well, put a C-H in front of it and you have, oh, that's the word child. So in Hebrew, Yalad means child or to be born of. So Tav Yod makes it possessive of the one speaking. And then the Kaf suffix means you. He's basically saying, you are my child. You are my child. And then to look at verse 8 where it says, you have an inheritance. I have given you an inheritance. But see, this day I have begotten thee. It's like, who's he talking to? Is it Jesus? Is it David? Is it who? For us to take this consciousness on, so I'm saying that to read these words in Hebrew kicks your frame of mind into a whole different place. And well, why don't we just get into the kingdom? We'll believe in the next chance, the next life. That's not being a good son. That's not being his child. That's being
Or a lover. Or
a lover. That's being an infidel. Yeah, it's like, what? Gosh. Anyway, one more thing to bring up, then it's Fred's. One of the other matters he was going to talk a little bit about is in Psalm 19. And I just want to point out real quick the Mishkan pattern. If you look at verse 8, the Torah of Yahuwah is perfect, restoring the soul. Well, is that the beginning? Well, if I'm saying Kaf Lamed, the barbecue grill, is the Torah instructions, you have to look in front of that to find the big white fence or Yahweh's name. Verse 2, the heavens declare the glory of Elohim, the firmament tells of his handiwork. Well, that's not him. It's talking about the stars, the firmament. Day follows day, utters speech, and night following night declares knowledge. Is that talking about the constellations? We'll talk about that on another occasion. There's no speech and there are no words. Sound is not heard. Well, there's the voice in the stars, but they're not saying anything. Their precision goes forth through the earth. The words reach into the inhabited world. In their midst, he has set up a tent for the sun. Well, that's like some people believe there's this domed canopy and the sun is on a track. And it's like, whether it's this infinite universe, I'm not talking about that, but this is all talking about the sky, which is like a groom emerging from his bridal chamber. It rejoices like a powerful warrior to run the course. Its source to the end of heaven, circuit to their end. Nothing is hidden from its heat. Well, where's the big white fence? I'm suggesting that all that is to say, you look at the grandeur of this incredible night sky, the sun, the clouds, and say, there's something about that speaks of the creator of the universe. And that's the big white fence of the Mishkan pattern. Then, kicking into verse 8, the Torah is perfectly restoring the soul. That's the barbecue grill. The testimony that Ayin Dalets, the testimony that we keep within us is trustworthy, making the simple one wise. I'm not going to elaborate. There's more to this. I'm just trying to show you the pattern. The orders, which are the word Pei Kufav Dalet, lining up with the menorah, which is what one is held responsible for, are upright, gladdening the heart. The word command is mitzvot, mem zadi vav tav. That lines up within the table of showbread, Yom Kippur, enlightening the eyes, the letter ayin. So the orders that are upright, gladdening the heart, that lines up with the letter Samek, the testimony, the Mem Nun, Torah, Kaf Lamed, backing up then. Then it goes on to say the fear of Yahweh. Well, now that would be the pay, the altar of incense. The fear of Yahweh is pure. Remember in the Beatitudes, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see Elohim. There's something about the integrity of our heart enduring forever. The fear of Yahuwah is pure, enduring forever. What endures forever? Once you die, you're dead. There's something about the integrity of the purity of our heart, which is the thing that lives forever. It's like the body dies, the soul, the mind seems to disappear sometimes while we're alive, with autism or Alzheimer's but the integrity of our heart. See, there's something written into this code. And then when it says the judgments are true, that's the mishpat, that lines up with the Ark of the Covenant, altogether righteous, more desirable than gold. And so what I'm saying is that even in this place in Psalms 19, there's this Mishkan pattern. And I said I found like over 500 times in Scripture, this is one of those times. And then he says, what's more, also, verse 12, this is the kufu. When your servant is scrupulous in them, in observing them, there's great reward. Well, that's talking about some future. Well, what's the reward? Well, the reward, you'll have extra French fries on your plate now, hey, or is it something in the future, or is it this otherworldly? Yahweh's continually saying, it's not just for now, but it is for now, but it's also, I've got something for you.
That's right.
Okay, on with you, Fred. Just want to bring that point up.
Thank you. Whenever I discuss this topic, I'm reluctant to assume that someone has heard, what I've said before. So just really briefly, I wanted to set this up again. As someone who grew up in the church, worshiping Jesus Christ and, hanging on every word that he said, I often thought about John 3:16, the idea that Yahuwah loves the whole world. That seemed like such a strange concept, because my thought was at the time that people like Cain and his descendants and the people who died in the flood would wake up from this terrible death they say that they had drowning in the flood to be thrown into the lake of fire. That people like Esau and his descendants were lost. And, when I read these words, he loves the whole world, that would include the children of Ishmael, the children of Esau, the children of Cain. What about all these people? Did Yahuwah allow them to be born just so that they could be trash, just so he could throw them away, just so that he could take out some kind of vengeance on them? Was that their purpose? When he says in Genesis 12 that all families of the earth will be blessed, doesn't it include those families? It has to. I mean, his words have meaning. He loves the whole world. And if that's true, if he's going to bless all families of the earth, what is the mechanism? How can that happen? And I think that he told us very clearly how it'll happen, and somehow we've missed it. And so that really is what started this study. And if you heard the presentations that we did, we went through quite a few chapters of Scripture, but I skipped over the Psalms because it's massive. I have here, 40 pages with many Psalms. And
Just real quick, didn't you say that you're willing to make these notes available if anybody
sure,
wants them?
anybody who wants them, I'm happy to
You'll
make
have
a
to
copy.
put them on a thumb drive or something, or
I could,
or
Rhonda
Dropbox,
could
or-
do that, sure.
Okay,
So-
just so you know.
And I know my brother Eric will take a verse and he could speak on it for 3 weeks, and I love that. I'm going to have to speak for about 5 seconds on each of these, or we'll never get through them. So I'm going to do kind of the opposite. But and my thought is to read the description of each of these and kind of move on and not make a lot of comment and let these stand on their own, because I think they build a picture of this kingdom. A question that comes to mind: was David a prophet? Certainly the scriptures refer to him as a prophet, and if anything establishes him as a prophet, it's Psalm 1. I mean, reread Psalm 1. There you see David's passion for Yahuwah and his Torah, and he certainly stands as a prophet. And I was in my church never to base doctrine on the Psalms, believe it or not, that the Psalms were poetry and they were just kind of creative writing, and don't look too carefully at the Psalms. When I read the Psalms here with the idea of looking for a description of the kingdom, of things that have not yet occurred, it is full of them. Here's David, whose entire frame of reference is the Torah. Obviously, Isaiah hadn't been written, Jeremiah, the great prophets, the minor prophets, none of them had been written. All he had was the Torah. And yet from his understanding and his relationship with Yahuwah comes a plethora of information about this coming kingdom that has never happened. And these events must be in front of us. So I think by the end of this, you'll see kind of a picture of the kingdom just from David's perspective and others who wrote in the Psalms. So Psalm 2, and again, I'm just going to read a quick description of where these texts refer to the kingdom. He says, he will give the nations to Israel as an inheritance, and he'll break them with a rod of iron. Boy, where does that rod of iron come in? I mean, we read that in other texts regarding the kingdom, though David's using this same phrase. When will that happen? Has it ever happened? Has Yahuwah ever given the nations to Israel as inheritance? And has he broken them with a rod of iron? Obviously not. That's a picture of the kingdom. Psalm 8, how glorious is your name in all the earth. In other words, his name will be proclaimed in all the earth. Psalm 9, you have rebuked the nations. You have destroyed the wicked. You have blotted out their name forever. This is obviously a picture at the end, that final judgment that I spoke of. The waste places are come to an end forever. Yahuwah is enthroned forever. He has established his throne for judgment. He will judge the world in righteousness. If he's a righteous judge, does a righteous judge judge someone, hold them responsible for information they didn't have? He will minister judgment to the people with equity. Here again is a picture of him as a righteous judge, judging people who have made a decision based on knowledge. The nations are sunk down in the pit that they themselves have made, and the net which they hid is their own foot taken. Yahuwah has made himself known. He has executed judgment.
Let me interrupt you again. That concept right there should be our great hope present tense.
Yes.
The bad guys, he doesn't stop them from making their schemes, their plans to ensnare us, to capture us. He lets them build the snare, the trap, the sneaky stuff, and their own foot's going to get caught in it.
Haman.
That's something to say. Oh gosh, thank you, Yahweh.
Haman on his own gallows.
Oh man, and that's my active now for
Mine
all
too.
the stuff you hear about in the news.
That's
that
right.
verse.
Well,
Gosh.
you know, I have two children who one is dead because of Western medicine and the other is retarded for life. And I'm telling you, if I allow the feelings in my heart to grow of revenge and of hate, but there are those words that he will let them build their own trap and then he'll ensnare them in it. I give that to Yahuwah. He will judge righteously. Psalm 10, Yahuwah is king forever. The nations are perished out of his land. So apparently they were in his land, now they're perished. Has this ever happened? Let's go to Psalm 12. For the oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy, now will I arise, says Yahuwah. I will set him in safety at whom they puff. You will preserve us from this generation forever. Of Zion, when Yahuwah turns the captivity of his people, let Yaakov rejoice and let Israel be glad. He promises here again to turn the captivity of his people. That comes right out of Deuteronomy, where he promised that as surely as he scattered us, so he would turn the captivity of his people. Psalm 15, who will dwell in your tabernacle? Who will dwell in your set-apart mountain? He who walks uprightly and works righteousness and speaks truth with his heart. He that does these things shall never be moved. Has that come about? Have a people who walk in his Torah and speak it been put in a place where they will never be moved? That's a picture of the kingdom. Psalm 16, I have Yahuwah always before me, because he is at my right hand. I will not be moved. Almost quoting from the previous chapter. Therefore my heart is glad and my honor rejoices. You will not abandon my soul to Sheol. In other words, you will not leave me in the grave. Neither will you suffer those who follow you to see the pit. Here's a promise of the kingdom that he will raise us up. You will show me the path of life, and in your presence is pureness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forever. Imagine, here he's promising us a kingdom in which we will have nothing but pleasure forever. Does that sound Christian? I mean, here he's speaking of a kingdom where his people are just enjoying life every single day. As for me, in Psalm 17, I will behold your face in righteousness. I will be satisfied when I awake with your likeness. Another picture of the resurrection. Psalm 18, actually, I didn't quote here. I suggest you read it. Psalm 18 is a picture of our experience in the kingdom. David is just writing with great poetic beauty about his experience of living in the kingdom. Psalm 19, the heavens declare the glory of Elohim. Day unto day utters speech. Their line has gone out throughout all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. All through the major and minor prophets, Yahweh says that his people will teach every nation, tongue, and people his name and his ways. Here's the same promise. All the earth, everyone will hear the words of Yahuwah. Does all the earth, does the end of the world, does the whole thing, wouldn't that have to include the families of Cain, of Esau, of Ishmael, of everyone that's ever lived? Are people excluded just because of the time and place that they were born and the culture in which they were raised? The Torah of Yahuwah is perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of Yahuwah is sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of Yahuwah are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandments of Yahuwah are pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of Yahuwah is clean, enduring forever. The ordinances of Yahuwah are true, they are righteous altogether. More they to be desired than gold, yes, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. These are the words that will go out to the whole world. This beautiful, amazing, restoring, rejuvenating truth must be heard by every person that's ever lived, or how can Yahuwah be a righteous judge?
So real quick, he was just reading what I had read earlier about the Mishkan pattern in this business of more desirable than gold, sweeter than honey, and drippings from the combs. Get that picture where the honeycomb just opens up and out flows the appreciation for the incredible worth of these words. Well, that's the picture of the Pezadi. That's Pezadi Kuf.
Yes.
The Kuf, which is the circle with the line, you can picture like a mouth of a jar with pouring out is another picture. That's what we're talking about, what we're doing at this moment, this very occasion of coming back to the truth, the beauty, the luxury of these words.
Yes.
This conversation is veritably the fulfilling of what you're talking about as this prophecy in Psalms 19.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Psalm 12, for the oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy. Now will I arise, says Yahuwah. I will set him in safety. Oh, I read that already. Let me move down. 21. Again, this is a picture of, I believe, the final judgment, the final Kippur. The king rejoices in Yahuwah, for he has given him the desires of his heart. You give him length of days forever and ever. You make him blessed forever. You will make your enemies a fiery furnace in the time of your anger. Yahuwah will swallow them up in his wrath, and the fire shall devour them. Their fruit will you destroy from the earth, and their seed from among the children of men. It can only occur after those people have had an opportunity to understand exactly the decision they're making, exactly who he is, what he's about, what he's done to save them, and chosen to reject him. It would be an unrighteous judgment to send them into that kind of situation, a fiery furnace. They don't even know why. Psalm 22. All the ends of the earth shall remember and turn unto Yahuwah. Oh my goodness. Listen to those words. All the ends of the earth shall remember and turn unto Yahuwah. When has that ever happened? And all the kindreds of the nations shall worship before you. For the kingdom is Yahuwah's, and he is the ruler over all the nations. All the fat ones of the earth shall eat and worship. All that go down to the dust shall kneel before him, even he that cannot keep his own soul alive. A seed shall serve him. It shall be told of Yahuwah unto the next generation. They shall come and declare his righteousness unto a people that shall be born, that he has done it. Those are all pictures of a kingdom that has never occurred yet. Those things must happen. Psalm 23, he will dwell in the house of Yahuwah forever. Psalm 24, lift up your heads, O ye gates, you everlasting doors, that the King of glory may come in. Yahuwah strong and mighty, Yahuwah strong in battle. Picture of the of Jerusalem restored and the King returning to it. When does that ever happen? Psalm 24, what man is that fears Yahuwah? Him he will instruct in the way that he should choose. His soul shall abide in prosperity. Again, that picture of abundance and of our desires of our heart being met. His seed shall inherit the land. When has that happened? Psalm 27, David requests to dwell in the house of Yahuwah forever. When has that been fulfilled? Psalm 28, save your people and carry them on your shoulders forever. Psalm 29, Yahuwah sits as king forever and Yahuwah blesses his people with peace. Psalm 30, the experience of the resurrected. Listen to this. You brought up my soul from Sheol. You gave me life. His anger was but for a moment. His favor is for a time of life. Joy comes in the morning. Shall the dust praise you? Obviously not. You turned me from mourning to dancing. You made us alive again. You loosened the sackcloth and you girded me with gladness. Oh, Yahuwah, my Elohim, I give thanks to you forever. That's in the future. Let all the earth fear Yahuwah. Let all the inhabitants of the earth stand in awe of him. Picture that one day the word will go forth, just as Yeshua said, to all the earth. Psalm 37, fret not because of evildoers. They'll wither like grass. They'll fade like the green herb. But delight in Yahuwah, and he will give you the desires of your heart. How many of us have experienced that? Evildoers will be cut off, but those that wait on Yahuwah will inherit the land. Yet a little while, and the wicked will be no more. The humble will inherit the land. The wicked plots and gnashes his teeth, but Yahuwah laughs at him because his day is coming. The wicked draw the sword, but it will enter their own heart. The inheritance of the wholehearted will be forever. The wicked will perish like the fat of lambs. They will pass away in a smoke. The blessed will inherit the land. The righteous will inherit the land, and they'll dwell there forever. The Torah of his Elohim is in his heart. I have seen the wicked in great power, but one passes by and then he's gone. Mark the man of integrity. He saves them because they have taken refuge in him. Psalm 45.
Which psalm was that one you just read?
That was Psalm 37. Psalm 45. My work is concerning a king. In your majesty prosper and ride on. In behalf of truth and meekness and righteousness. Your arrows are sharp. The people fall under you. Hearken, O daughter, and consider. The king will desire your beauty. Instead of your fathers shall be your sons, whom you shall make princes in all the land. And I will make your name to be remembered in all generations. All generations cannot only go forward. All generations has to be forward and backward. It has to include everyone from Adam and Hava. Therefore shall the people praise you forever and ever. All generations, past, present, and future. Psalm 46. Elohim is our refuge and our strength. We will not fear, though the earth changes and the mountains are moved into the sea, though they shake and they swell. There is a river, the streams whereof make glad the city of Elohim, the most set apart dwelling place of Elohim. I want you to just think about that. There's a river, the streams whereof make glad the city of Elohim. Remember in the book of Ezekiel, when the new temple is built, the third temple, and what flows out of it? A river that gets deeper and deeper as Ezekiel measures it. And it says the trees that grow around it are for the healing of the nations. Here's this picture of a river. There's no river flowing out of Jerusalem. But in this picture that David sees, it's the same picture Ezekiel sees, a river flowing out of the city of Elohim. Elohim is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. Nations are in tumult. Kingdoms are moved. He utters his voice and the earth melts. Yahuwah Tsabaoth is with us. He is our high tower. Behold the works of Yahuwah, who has made desolations in the earth. He makes wars to cease. Let be and known that I am Elohim, and I will be exalted among the nations. That's a picture of the kingdom. That's the little stone growing, the stone that knocks down the authorities of men and growing and filling the whole earth. That's Ezekiel's picture of the water flowing out and healing the nations. This is happening in the midst of nations. He's our high tower. He has a kingdom, a city of Elohim with a river, and he's exalted among the nations. That's a picture of the coming kingdom. That's never happened.
So we got to take a break here in just 2 more minutes, but let me question this here at this place. If you can picture, he's our high tower. Is he present physically? See, when David ruled with the arm of Yahweh, wait a minute, where was the arm of Yahuwah? Metaphorical. Does he have to physically be sitting in an office building in the middle of Jerusalem for him to be our high tower of strength?
He doesn't.
We have to have him as our high tower of strength within us, walking in his ways, trusting that everything he said was true.
Sure.
And if we have the wrong doctrine because we think his Torah was nailed to the cross, or that he didn't affirm the covenant with his people, he doesn't have a high tower and he's not there. So when we say, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, does that necessarily mean Jesus has to return back to earth and stand in Jerusalem or sit in an office chair? Or is it just a matter of we coming back to his words for that to be true?
Were not Adam and Hava the image of Yahuwah in the world? He created them in his image and he set them in this place. And as long as they were walking in his ways, they were the image of Yahuwah in the world, just as we can be.
So for this psalm to be, you might say, manifest as a reality, that he is in the midst of his people, it's not dependent on Jesus Christ coming back to the earth. Or Yeshua even. Yes. Revelation 19, the Zavot, the armies, angel armies on their horses behind him, and him, eyes of fire and coming on the white steed with his name written on his leg. Revelation 19 doesn't have to happen for this to happen. No. What has to happen is we need to return.
You're not king he returns. You're just saying we don't necessarily have to have him return for this to happen.
Yeah, for I'm saying for us to picture, that high tower, that's him standing there. No, it's for us to believe what he said.
That's absolutely true.
Is that high tower. Anyway, we need to take a break here.
Okay, all right, so we're at Psalm 46. We are 1/3 of the way through Psalms.
Well, only I'll be...
Oh, you're taking it from here.
No, you're going to continue.
Oh, I'm continuing on.
Okay, but wait a minute, Kurt has to take shut off the recording here.
Okay.